And we are coming to you live, well, recorded live, on the back porch of Josh Blue's house in Denver, Colorado. And first of all, I want to say, Josh, thank you for letting me stay with you the last couple of days and like spoiling me and treating me like an absolute king, man.
Yeah, Tom, it's been cool hanging out, man, and just getting to know you, and it's just such a weird life, but it's so cool that you can meet somebody and just feel connected, and I felt safe welcoming you in my home. You haven't done anything too weird, and I'm excited.
That's good.
And it's one more night.
I put the toilet seat down when I'm finished,
yeah.
and
I usually pee on the seat and then I put it up.
Oh, you got like a Cadillac of toilet seats. You got one of those. Did those originate in Japan or something?
I believe so, yeah.
There's all the buttons on the side. And,
yeah, it's
there's like a butt warmer. I mean, it's the middle of summer, but it's nice to have a
nice stream of warm water
butt.
up your butt. Yeah, it's nice. This is the perks.
So, the first time I ever heard your name was about 15 years ago. Comedy Central was doing this like 100 greatest comedians of all time or whatever, and people had to, maybe not of all time, but like it was something where people had to vote.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't of all time if we were on the list. I think there's probably 100.
That's right. There might be 100 guys funnier than us. That's great. And I guess dead comedians wouldn't have people voting for them, but
that's true too.
It was some kind of thing where people had to vote, and I think maybe it was like maybe the top 20 or top 50 or something. You and I were neck and neck.
Yeah, for like 10th and 11th or something.
Something like, maybe it was the top 10.
Yeah, we were in top 10.
Maybe it was like for 11th and 10th, and I was like, God, I got to break the top 10, and I'm contacting all these friends of mine and saying, you got to vote and everything. And I looked you up at the time. I was like, who the fuck is Josh Blue? And I was ready to like, just out of competitive nature, like, just to not like this guy. And I look you up on YouTube, and I'm like, oh, fuck, that guy's really funny.
Oh, thanks, man.
And I think you inched me out. And I think whatever year that was, you came in 10th and I was 11th.
Yeah, I think it was already after I did Last Comic Standing, and that really helped. I had a lot of views, but it was, social media was so new back then too. It was like MySpace and shit.
Yeah.
Like posting like, hey, vote for me. And I remember you could vote infinitely amount, and I just sat there on my own phone and just voted for myself. Like,
oh, I didn't do that. Maybe that's why I came in 11th.
30,000 votes.
You just sat there all night, click, click, click.
I know, and for me, dexterity ain't my thing, so that was a lot of fucking work.
You earned it. You earned that 10th position. So we actually had never met before until about 5 or 6 months ago. You were in Los Angeles, and then I run into you at the Comedy Store, and like, that's the beauty of comedy. I've known your work. Kind of felt connected to you. I mean, my favorite color is blue.
Oh, perfect.
And then we finally meet, and we had this fantastic conversation at the Comedy Store, and like, you're even more fascinating than you regular comedians.
Well,
I love soccer, and then you were telling me how you had played on the Paralympic national soccer team for the United States.
Yeah, I've been to 8 countries playing for the U.S. and got like 13 caps. Yeah.
Scored 13 goals?
Yeah.
For the national team?
Yeah.
That's huge.
And played probably 26 games, something like that. Pretty cool.
Yeah, and I was asking you, like, what were the biggest stadiums you ever had played in? And you said you played at, you were rattling them off. You played at Ajax.
Yeah,
in Amsterdam?
Yeah, it was just, back then disabled sport didn't get much play, but in other countries they actually respected it way before the U.S. did, and they'd put us in cool venues, and I mean, I'm not saying the stands were full, but we played there.
But you played there.
Yeah,
what what an exhilarating experience to have in your lifetime.
Yeah, and I was in the 2004 Paralympics in Athens, Greece, which is, pretty... For
the Olympic Games?
Right.
Wow.
So I'm an Olympian.
You're an Olympian.
Which is pretty crazy to say that, but, obviously I've always just been I've been a comedian my whole adult life, so it's funny when you do the Olympics as like your side gig. You're like, I'm in the Olympics.
Yeah, where some people that's their highest life achievement.
Right.
Did you ever medal? Did the team ever medal in those
We
years?
didn't. We got our asses kicked.
Okay, so even our Paralympic team isn't that good.
No, we're terrible. I think we were so bad that they don't even have Paralympic soccer anymore.
Are you serious?
For the U.S. It's still an event, but we just don't have a team.
Well, we don't have a team anymore.
I'm not 100% sure, but we were pretty bad.
Well, I mean, I'm wildly impressed that you have that life experience. And then another thing that blew me away is that you were born in Cameroon.
Yeah.
And so I lose my mind when the World Cup is on. And then I went on a little buying spree of like the coolest jerseys of the World Cup. I think I got like 4 of the coolest jerseys. And I always think Cameroon has like the coolest jersey because there's a little lion on the chest. And
they're indomitable.
And
they're amazing. Yeah.
The indomitable lions.
Yeah. And I have quite a few Cameroon jerseys myself. And they are the best. Colorful, I just love African soccer. I think it's the most fun to watch. It's very playful and it's fun.
Well, I always think the African nations teams always have the coolest. It's Ivory Coast. That's what I couldn't think of.
Oh, yeah,
Ivory Coast has got the elephant on it.
Oh, yeah.
Cameroon and Ghana have a lion on the chest, which I think is really cool.
Pretty cool.
How did it come to be that you were born in Cameroon?
My dad is a professor.
And that you're an African American.
I know, shit. My dad's a professor, and he was over there teaching English and 2-year study, like a professor exchange kind of thing. And I just happened along halfway through there to visit. I guess the African nights are long. Mom and Dad got bored.
There wasn't much nightclubs and entertainment.
No TV or Johnny Carson or anything.
But it's pretty fascinating. You told me that your family are kind of all linguists. They're all like you said, your father speaks 13 languages, and your siblings all speak like 3 languages each.
Yeah, we all.
And you got a pretty good handle on French.
Yeah, I speak French pretty fluently. So I have 3 siblings. They all can speak French, and then obviously we can speak some English, and then we all have a variable language that is different in Spanish, Italian, Korean, and then I speak Wolof, which is the native language of Senegal. And I lived there when I was 15.
For how many years?
1 year. But
what's on the Senegal jersey?
Surprisingly a lion as well. I'm pretty sure. It might be a star actually, but so living in Senegal when I was 15, 16 was just like mind-altering, like coolest thing my parents could have had done for me to kind of get me ready. And being disabled, I mean, 15, you're just figuring out your lot in life, and all of a sudden you go to an African country where you're not only the only white person, but you're also the only disabled people. And like maybe they had seen white people before, but they never seen a guy with cerebral palsy. So everywhere I went, people would just stare at me, which honestly isn't that different than America. So, but that's why I do comedies, because I'm gonna get stared at regardless of what I do in life. I might as well be the one calling the shots and like having fun with it and making it go my way.
What did you most get out of your time as a teenager in Senegal?
I feel like just looking back, it's mainly like just seeing how fortunate I was in the way that my body is fucked up and it moves differently, but I'm in a position where I get to eat food and have clothes, and I realize the privilege that we have living in America, and honestly I feel like Americans have no
idea how good we have it.
Idea how good you have it, and how you're fucking it up.
Yeah. I was telling you about how I had gone to Argentina.
Yeah.
In March, and just the poverty, and you've been there.
Yep.
And just people living on the streets, and I mean Los Angeles is like that too, but so many places in the world where I mean, there's like heartbreaking poverty.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, again, it happens here too, but I don't know. It just, yeah. Anyway, it gave me a real perspective of what could be and how to be grateful for that. What I have, you know.
you got such a beautiful life, man, and I really enjoyed the last couple days with you going around Denver, and you get recognized everywhere.
Yeah.
And like we were at the Whole Foods getting some salad, and the dude behind the deli goes, "Hey, famous guy."
Yeah, you know, it's fun. It's interesting.
He may not have known your name, but he knew who you were.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey, famous guy.
Yeah, I get it all the time. It's and it's interesting because, again, if you go back to the palsy thing, like if you don't know me and you saw me walking down the street, I just look like some drunk homeless person, and I get treated that way still. So it's like I live in two different worlds where it's like really famous, and then also people are like yell shit at me, like, you know, just it's such different worlds, like two different ends of the spectrum, really.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird, and that's the weird thing is I have to always figure out which one it is. Like, do you like me or are you afraid of me? You know.
But I mean, you got to be you're a hero to people in the comedy world and a lot of different people, don't you think?
I mean, I definitely have had a lot of you know, feedback from the disabled community for sure. You know, people just saying thanks for putting us out there in the limelight, and you know, it's not just cerebral palsy, but there are so many different disabilities out there. And honestly, I think everybody's disabled in some way, whether it's, I'm lucky mine is visual.
Yeah,
or,
that's the truth.
Or like,
People mentally. Or...
Yeah, I just look at you and I'm like, huh, I don't know what's wrong with this guy, but there's something wrong with him.
Mucho plenty.
Mucho plenty.
Or I wouldn't be doing comedy.
Exactly, that's why we're comedians.
What are you running from, Tom Rhodes?
Yeah, man.
I did like, you know, I was surprised because I thought, I didn't know what your life was like here. I thought maybe you might live in an apartment. You said you had a spare room that I could sleep in.
Yeah.
Because I got some gigs in Montana, and I thought, oh, I'll make a trip out of it. I haven't been to Colorado in 10 years. Last time I was here, I filmed an hour special in Boulder.
Oh, yeah,
and
nice.
did a set at the Comedy Works in Denver, which we're going to do sets there tonight.
Yeah, man.
And I thought, oh, man, that'd be a nice little adventure. Shoot over to Denver and visit you for a couple days. And I didn't know if you lived in an apartment or what. You got his fantastic house. And then today you took me out to your other property, this cabin.
Up in Pine, Colorado.
And, you know, you talking about people with different disabilities. I was really impressed that you had a wheelchair ramp on your mountain property.
Yeah, well, we have the stage there, so it's like we're trying to make it accessible to, everybody, and, you know, so many different levels of ability out there, you know. I'll carry a motherfucker if I have to, you know, we'll get you to the party.
Yeah, I really liked it, man. It was really nice spending the day up in the mountains.
It's beautiful,
and,
isn't it?
Yeah, it was Brokeback Mountain without the gay part.
Yeah, man, there's still time.
I liked, and a really cool thing you showed me last night. We went out to this nature preserve.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know how many people know this, and it's free. You can drive through it.
Rocky Mountain Arsenal.
And it's kind of out near the Denver airport, and there's like this, there's deer and there's other wildlife. We saw like hundreds of
birds,
prairie dogs and
prairie
stuff.
dogs, yeah.
And I told you that funny story about in Colorado, it was like 10, 20 years ago, some guy invented like a Zamboni machine, and it just drove over and it sucked they look like little gophers or something, the prairie dogs.
They're big gophers, man.
And it sucked them out of their hole, and all these animal activists
they didn't like that.
got upset because it was like a vacuum cleaner sucking up these animals. But there's a massive herd of bison out, and we went out, and at the sunset we watched
it was beautiful,
the bison. It was like so cool, man. I never even knew such a thing existed.
And they were really vocal last night. I never heard them do that before, but it's really cool. You hear them talking to each other and playing around, and yeah, it's at the Rocky Mountain Arsenal. It's highly toxic and probably cancerous, and we'll all die from going there. But It was cool to see the bison.
It was worth it to watch that their silhouette on the setting sun.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
And we saw the one bison. He's rolling around in the dirt, and I had learned in Yellowstone a couple years ago that means they're mating, and the female bison get all turned on by the sweat and the smell of the dirt on the.
I'm not gonna lie, I was getting a little excited myself.
I like you said, put your emergency lights on. I'll be back in a minute.
Oh, fuck that bison, man. Oh, this is a big bull, man. You look like he was ready to get fucked.
And your story is really fascinating to me because, like we were talking about, I feel like, and it's really unfortunate that a lot of comedians don't have this attitude that like being in kind of a, there's this real bond connection, because there's not many people who can do what we do.
Yeah, man. I feel like what we do is just such a unique skill set. And like, I've had this where I'll be walking through an airport and I can see somebody sitting at the terminal and be like, that's a comedian right there. And I can just see their energy. And sure enough, it's just some like open micer or some, somebody that like, you just like an energy. And I felt that with you when we met at the store. Like when you came up, I was like, oh, this guy is what I think the scene is or should be. There's a lot of people that don't.
Yeah, I hate that when you meet people who are assholes.
Yeah,
and I felt instantly connected to you.
Right.
You're someone I've always wanted to meet. And we just hit it off instantly. Like we had known each other for 10, 20 years or something.
Hey, you've been here a couple nights. I haven't wanted to kill you or nothing. It's great.
That's, phew.
Again, there's still time.
Always put the toilet seat down.
Yes, sir.
When you're a guest in someone's house. I do that at my own house. But your story about how you're originally from St. Paul, Minnesota, and you went to
Cameroon first.
You were born in Cameroon.
Then Minnesota, because my parents were like, hey, let's move this guy to the whitest, coldest place on earth.
From Cameroon to Minnesota.
Yeah, that's a big. Only thing they have in common is the mosquitoes.
But you were telling me you went to university in Olympia, Washington?
Yep.
And it was kind of an arts?
Yeah, it's called the Evergreen State College, and it's totally hippie liberal arts college. And, there's no requirements. So, like, if you suck at math, you don't have to stress doing math. You just do what you're actually good at, which is, why wouldn't more schools do that? Like,
yeah, what a great idea.
You gotta do math. Like, I suck at math. I know I'm never gonna do anything. But I actually ended up studying stand-up comedy. You
were telling me that. So your last year at this college, you could choose to just study stand-up comedy.
Yeah, no one else had done that before. But I just found a professor that was like, sign off on it, and it's a lot of independent work. Just me doing the work, but here I am.
So you told me you just smoked pot and watched Richard Pryor.
VHS
tapes and stuff.
Yeah, some Carlin too, but when you watch stand up with a critical eye and see how they stand and move, and you can learn a lot.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I'm at a point where I can't really watch stand up without analyzing
critically,
where are they going with this?
Guessing where the punchline's where it's gonna be. Yeah. I'm the same. But when I started in high school, and I remember I worked in the library at Oviedo High School, and I would look up in the card catalog, like the periodicals section, like any article about stand-up comedy, I would read, and I would watch HBO specials and kind of a similar thing, like educating myself, becoming a student of stand-up comedy. Yeah. Watching Carson every night, and then Letterman, especially when they had comedians on.
And I remember being a kid and just being real funny with friends and like making everybody laugh, but then also like they'd tell me like a street joke and I'd be like, that's kind of dumb. And I'm like, who's writing these things? Like even at like 10, I was like, who writes those jokes? And then I was like, oh, you can write better jokes, And like, and my show, I talk it's all about me, you know. I talk about my life and shit that happens to me on a daily basis, and you know, and I feel like the more personal you can get with your material, the more people can relate, because
Yeah.
they go through some same shit, you know.
So what experience have you been writing about lately?
Well, it's well, I'm in a weird position right now because not weird, but I just filmed my 5th hour special in January, so now I'm in this like window of like trying to write all new shit and just try to lose the old shit mainly.
So what's your process for that? Because like you're still doing road dates. Do you, like I'm friends with Mark Maron, and I know he told me he'll like develop an hour and a half.
Yeah.
He'll record the best hour for his special, and then he's got this like half hour to start on the next one
that's
with.
a cool idea.
Which, you know, that's pretty good if
I feel like, I mean, I'm constantly writing. Like, I've never sat down and wrote a joke. I've never, like, I don't write anything down. I just...
never. You're one of those people.
Yeah, I just go up and it comes out. I don't know where it comes from, but I would say...
So you never, like, lay out, like, you know, okay, I'll do these stories or these jokes. You don't do, like, you don't structure your sets?
I've never written anything like maybe I'll go over in my head and be like, okay, remember to do that joke so then you can do that next joke later, you know? I like have a lot of callbacks. I'm like a big callback guy.
Yeah.
So obviously you have to get the order right for that, but I mean, I think, you know, I had at least 10 big callbacks in my last special, which is like, they keep coming, you know, and
What was your last special called?
Freak Accident.
What was the major callback theme?
It's basically me calling the audience dumb, but in a nice way. Like I kind of explain to them how comedy works, and then I just do like a hand signal that's like, it's your turn to like think about it. You'll have to see. Check it out. Freak Accident. It's not out yet, but one day.
When's it gonna come out?
Fuck if I know, Tom.
Okay.
You know the deal.
I know the
It's being edited, which is a very long and painful process.
Yeah.
I hate watching myself.
So what are the, you know, so then you started doing, where did you start stand up? In Denver, right? And you told me you had a friend that had moved to Denver and you got out of school.
Yeah.
And so you had never done stand up before you moved to Denver.
Well, I did it in college. You know, I did that course, and part of that course was me getting my own show and doing it. So,
in front of the class.
well, no, there was no class because it was independent studies. So it was just me. So basically, what I said, it wasn't just watching prior tapes, you know. Part of it was I would find my own show and do a weekly show, and it was crazy. So I found a guy that was doing music at a coffee shop, 2 bands. He was like, why don't you do the set break between the bands, 10 minutes. And the first week I went, it was standing room only. First band went on, I went on, and then everybody left after I was done. Second week, same thing happened again, and then the owner of the coffee shop was like, they're clearly only here to see you. Let me give you your own night. And
Great.
They gave me the Josh Blue Comedy Hour every Wednesday. I did a new hour every week.
Wow.
Which is so... I couldn't do that now.
Yeah.
No way.
Where did it come from, do you think?
It was just all... I was like very storytelling, so I would just tell stories from when I was a kid and being a camp counselor and shit like that, and just, you know, and then also...
oh yeah, you told me you were a camp counselor, and I thought, oh, that sounds really
and I did
inspiring, and then you said it was a horrible experience. Like, why?
One of the camps, I worked at 2 camps. One was an amazing experience. The other one was an absolute nightmare. But
Why was it a nightmare?
well, I didn't go to the orientation week. I like fucked off at college, and then I went there, and I got there the next morning was the start. It was a camp for different disabilities, but the first week I was there was a severe ADHD and like autism, and it was like the craziest of crazy kids, like all just come and they gave me 2 campers by myself, and then as soon as I got them, one ran that way and the other one ran that way, and it was like, oh fuck, this is insane. And then they just had to chase these 2 lunatics around for a week. Try not to let them get in the lake or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it was an amazing experience, but it was definitely like, I was not ready for the level of responsibility. I just got...
Keeping these kids out of traffic.
I just graduated college, took mushrooms the day before, and now I'm like, yeah, I'm here to work. Sorry, misorientation.
Well, what were your best stories that you got out of that?
I mean, that place is... it was like day 4, and just going on no sleep. One of my campers didn't sleep. Like, I don't know. Honestly, the 7 days he was there, he stopped talking for like 4 hours. He was just an awake human being. And we had to sleep in front of the doors so that the kids wouldn't get up in the night and just leave and go in the woods and shit. And I volunteered to sleep in front of the door. And I finally lay down, and I'm like, about to sleep, and then I hear the sound of urine hitting very close to my head, and some kid is just standing above me, just pissing on my head. I was like, I quit, I'm out. This is like, it was insane. It was insane. I didn't quit. I stuck it out the whole year, but the whole summer, not year. I would have died.
Wow. And so you told me you got really lucky when you started doing stand-up comedy because you moved like 10 blocks away from the Comedy Works, and then you basically started at the Comedy Works, right?
Yeah, so that's my home club, the downtown Comedy Works. Yeah, like I said, I moved here on a whim. My friend Liz, and then her dad had an art gallery that he was big in the disabled community. Like, he had a whole company that hired disabled people, which was really cool. And he had an art gallery for the disabled people, and they had just started like running out of funding for the gallery, and it was just a house, and basically me and his daughter took over this house downtown, this tiny little, the coolest little spot you ever seen. Like, just super, it was insane. The rent was $375 for the whole house, and
a month.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then she had a boyfriend move in, so my rent was $125 a month.
Wow.
And it was like before, like, you know, iPhones and shit. I just had a flip phone. You know, that's $20 a month, and you know, it's just, you could live off of comedy money for that much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You could survive. And then I started getting gigs, and just I was living like a king, man. Yeah, those some of my fondest memories of that little house.
But it's such a great little, big empire you've built in Denver, and it's pretty cool to see you. You're like the king of comedy here, and everybody knowing who you are, going around the city, and and then also in behind your house, you've got this other little brick house. Not little, it's 2-story, and that's your art studio, and you also paint.
Yeah,
and you told me you have art gallery shows, and
I have one right now. Yeah.
And you said what, your 6th one?
6 or 7, I can't remember.
And you're selling your paintings for, you know, like a couple $1,000s?
Yeah, I just sold a big painting, and they shipped it to New York City. Somebody bought it out
So I
there.
mean, your whole life is like is a creative act.
You should show them that mask when you're done.
I will. And you know, another thing we want to get to after we talk about the art is your skull collection.
I'm all over the map.
You know, so how did you get into painting? You know,
So I've always just been an artist, loved drawing, loved, you know, doodling, shit like that. And then I never had, like, you know, you paint as a kid, whatever, that's nothing. But then My neighbor that
But everybody's parents goes, he's a genius.
right, not me. I'm like, this is trash. My daughter would draw me like 1,000 pictures a day, and I'd be like, oh, that's great. Trash. This is trash. So my neighbor at the place that I moved in downtown, a little place, he was a painter and artist in Denver, and he gave me my first paints. And
so how old were you at the time?
23, maybe.
But when did you feel like confident enough in your work to show it to people and then to want to sell it?
I've always been like, that was always my gifts to people.
You're always a hustler.
Well, that's true too, yeah. But that was always my gift. Like, I'd draw pictures like for Christmas, and I'd lay out a bunch of drawings and be like, you guys can pick whatever ones you want. And like, those things are still hanging on my parents' walls and siblings' walls. So I've always just been like a prolific sketcher and drawer, and it's all abstract. And my lines aren't ever going to be straight, so I don't try to do that. I'd go.
There's kind of like a Jackson Pollock element to.
Yeah. The Palsy Pollock is what they call me.
You said that, not me.
No, that's
It's funny. I've heard you use that word a lot, and that's such an insult. So it's kind of beautiful to hear you own that word.
I mean, I feel like it's just.
I remember guys bullies in high school, calling people that.
Oh yeah, and then the difference is I beat those bullies up, man.
And out-earned them.
Yeah.
And
I was
outlived them with a fantastic life.
Yeah, and that's the key is like, I got at a young age, I just realized that I was pretty funny and very quick. So there's nothing a bully could say to me that I couldn't like either make them look stupid or say something worse about myself, you know what I mean? Like, I don't care what you say, that's your opinion. I know that I'm a better soccer player, artist, all that than you'll ever be. So it's kind of interesting. I came to that early. And that was after my time in Africa, actually, just because it was just so eye-opening, like, oh, okay, things can be worse. You saying something mean to me isn't the end of my life.
Yeah.
And then, I don't think you know this about me either, but my junior year of college, I went to Senegal, and I worked in a zoo for 3 months. And
cool.
I've been like, I've had more.
Oh, didn't you took a trip with with a guy to Tanzania for like 3 months? That was like recently.
That was recently, yeah. He's the head of elephants at the zoo, and
so you went there to study elephants
and rhinos and
for the Denver Zoo.
Raise money for conservation. We got to go to this place no people get to go to. It was like this rhino sanctuary. It was awesome.
So what about then when you went back to Senegal?
Yeah. So
what, were you studying animals again?
Yeah. So again, it was through my college. So I was getting credit. I did a photo documentary, and I did
on what?
On the animals and the conditions, and like, cause it's old school bars and concrete floors, and I got I became one of 3 people in the world that could pet this 400-pound gorilla, and like I just befriended him, and and showed him I was a good dude, and we got pretty close. It was pretty cool, and I did this thing that's like, I would say this is the real pivot point in my life where I just kind of realized, oh, you can do anything if you just do it. Just do it. Toward the end of my internship, I had the zookeepers lock me in a cage as one of the animals on display at the zoo for the day. And I shared a wall of bars with the gorilla. And man, it was the craziest fucking day of my life, man. And I mean,
what would you do when people came around?
Well, I was barefoot and I had shorts on only, no shirt, real long hair, and then you take the palsy out of context, and I'm the only white dude for 10 miles easily. And Dakar is Dakar Zoo. It's a big city, you know, skyscrapers and shit. And I'm telling you, it was before like cell phones were there. People must have been leaving the zoo and go, hey man, you gotta come see this thing. There was like 70 people around my cage the whole day. It was the best I ate the whole time. People throwing peanuts to me.
You're an Olympian. You were in a cage in the Dakar Zoo.
Yeah.
There's incredible facts.
Yeah, it was really, and I didn't speak, and I've been studying monkey behavior, primate behavior the whole time, so I just like listened to people talk about me in Wolof, which they didn't expect I'd understand either way. And I mean, just eavesdropping on people talking about me, like, what is this? And then the zookeeper.
What were they saying?
Well, this is funny. The zookeeper. There's this one zookeeper I didn't think liked me very much. He was at the front of the cage, just sitting there, and people would be asking questions, and he said, this is the boo-boo monkey, and they caught him in the mountains of the Congo. And then he just had this whole thing, and he was just going on about how they captured me. And
the boo-boo monkey.
The boo-boo monkey. And they said, man, he's...
that should be your next special.
Yeah, the boo-boo monkey.
Boo-boo monkey.
Dude, and he had him going, and there was one lady in the front. She wasn't from Senegal. It was just some other, it was like English-speaking African country, and she was talking to me in English, and I wasn't answering, but I was like, you know, like playing along, you know, and she was like, trying to get me to talk, just trying to get me to talk, and I wouldn't talk. And finally she goes, you're crazy. And then in Wolof I said, Yama gonna dof, which means you are crazier than I am. And everybody fucking laughed except her, because she didn't speak Wolof. And then she goes, what did he say? What did he say? And some English speaker in the back goes, he said, you're crazier than he. It was like one of those moments, it was like, silence, bam!
You're getting big laughs in a
cage.
In a cage.
And that's my silly, it's kind of corny sounding, but I say a day in the cage equals a life on stage. Because it's like, after I did that, I can play any show, you know?
Right.
I can do anything.
What heckle couldn't you handle?
Right, exactly. The boo-boo monkey's coming out. I'm telling you, at the end of the day, when they're like, okay, time to get out of the cage, and they opened the door, everybody ran the fuck away. They were so scared.
Did you see that Netflix series? I think it's called Chimp Nation. It's really great. I think it was filmed in Uganda. And they had all these cameras set up all over and it's just this like, tribe? What's a herd? What's a group of chimpanzees?
Troop.
A troop?
I believe it's a troop.
So,
I know it's a troop of
and the
gorillas.
hierarchy and like the leader, he gets hurt in some battle against some neighboring troop, and he had to go off by himself because the lead figure, or the you know, whatever you call the top chimpanzee, you can't show the other's weakness, and it was all these like really interesting kind of human qualities. It was almost like what I imagine the business corporate world to be, where like some of the chimps were teaming up together to they make allies and, you know, try and help.
I mean, it's very complex. It's insane. They had chimps at that zoo too. I worked closely with chimps. They're fucking scary. I was more scared of them than the giant gorilla.
Why?
They were just a little bit more intelligent, and they were a little more... I actually got pretty beat up by a chimp, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it could have killed me if it wanted to.
Tell me the story.
All right, so part of my job at the zoo, which they didn't tell me to do this, but whenever any American or anybody would come to the zoo, I'd give a personal tour and kind of show off a little bit and like pet the tiger and do this shit and just show off. And they had this one chimpanzee named Tali, and he was raised by a French family, so he was like a baby, and then he got to like 3 years old, and then they're like, we can't have a chimp in our house. This is insane. You know what I mean? Like, imagine a toddler normally, but then a toddler that's a chimpanzee and that can crawl up there and like rip your ceiling fan down or whatever. Anyway, he
like people with the pythons in Florida. They don't realize how big they're going to get.
Right,
they take them out into the Everglades and let them go.
Now they eat everything. Yeah. So the zoo got him, and they put him in a cage, but he knew all these like commands like a dog, or like these tricks and stuff, and but it was in French, and one of his tricks was give me a kiss, and he'd like lean in and give you a kiss on your cheek. So I was given a tour to this American lady, and I'm showing off, petting this, jumping over that guardrail, this guardrail, and we get to the chimps, and I go to the wall of bars, and Tali comes up, and I have him do a trick, and then I said, "Donne-moi un bisou," and like, give me a kiss, and then he doesn't do it, and then I say it again, and he leans in like he's gonna do it, and as I lean in, he reaches through the bars, grabs the back of my head, and pulls me in like, bam, and like. I mean, I was pretty much knocked out on my feet. I had a bloody bar mark down my face where he hit. And if he had done that like 3 more times, I'd have just been dead. Like, he could have just utterly destroyed me. But he just was, the way I looked at it, he was like, don't use me to show off. That's how I felt. Like, he was like, fuck you, man. Because he had done that trick every time, no questions asked. And then I had a lady there, I'm like, hey, watch this. And he's like, fuck you.
Wow. Showing you who's boss.
Yeah, man.
And that was, what intelligence. Fuck you, pal. I'm not your dancing
monkey boy. Yeah. You fucking...
Did you learn any interesting facts about the rhinos and the elephants when you studied them? What about their nature?
I mean, I've always just loved those animals and know a lot about them already, but I mean, I think what I learned most is how in danger they really are. Like
the rhinos, like people poach their horns and stuff, right?
Yeah. So
like it's an aphrodisiac, apparently, like to grind up a rhino horn.
Yeah,
like
they think
guys in China get erections if they make tea out of ground up. And then I also believe that with sharks' fins.
Yeah.
So why is there this big animal cruelty industry so Chinese guys can get their dicks hard?
I mean, then that was my joke. I was like, you know what I used to get my dick hard? A naked lady. There's no need to bring a 4,000-pound ungulate into the fucking...
Yeah, and don't they have pharmacies? Can't they get Viagra?
Get some Viagra,
let's leave the rhino horns.
Exactly.
These sharks are swimming around in circles because they don't have a fin.
I mean, they say one horn is worth over $1 million.
Seriously?
On the market.
Wow.
Because they grind it up and put a little powder in. Like, at that point, just lie and say it's in there. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But, yeah, it's bad. I mean, there was this is a couple years ago, they said 100 elephants a day are killed.
Wow.
For their tusks. And I'm like, how are there any fucking left?
Yeah.
You know? But it's just sad when they like...
So there's a lot of elephants walking around Africa with no tusks and rhinos with...
Well, unfortunately, they don't. That's not the way they do it.
They kill them.
They shoot them and then they cut them off.
It's heartbreaking.
It's brutal, man. It's really... I've always wanted to be a poacher. They put me out in the bush waiting.
I like what you said at the what do you call it? The armory? Where are the buffalo?
Arsenal.
The arsenal. Because you said there was lots of deer.
Yeah.
And you said it would be cool just to release one Bengal tiger.
Just one big Bengal tiger in this, couple thousands of acres, and just one. It would be fine. It'd be great. It would make it so much more entertaining. Like, you thought those bison were cool. How badass would it be if a tiger jumped on one of their backs? And
so how did you, do you have any other, as a guy who was born in Africa and spent a lot of time there, any other interesting animal facts? I love animal facts.
Trying to think of something that you wouldn't know. Well, so when I was in Senegal when I was 15, my mom homeschooled me for that year, and I'm telling you, I learned more in that 1 year than all my other public school education. But it wasn't like, scary homeschool. My mom was crazy, kind of like, all right, we had to catch and identify one bug a day. We'd have to go out in the bush and come back with a different bug every day. So it's like, I know, tons of different species of bugs and shit. And just like, most of the time we didn't even have to leave our house. We would just like lift up a chair and there'd be a spider that you'd never seen before. I'm like, do I have to catch this, Mom, or can you just come look at it here, I ain't fucking with this thing.
But in Africa, you have poisonous insects, don't you?
Oh, yeah. Poisonous snakes, poisonous insects, scorpions. I had a little terrarium that I got, and I went in the bush and I caught like a couple scorpions, and then I never saw them again in the cage, and I was like, oh, they're probably
in their house somewhere.
Oh yeah, man. I went to step in the shower one day, and this little scorpion that I caught was like now like that big, and I almost stepped on it in the shower.
So I think that is a perfect segue to now, is this a alligator or a crocodile skull?
I believe it's a crocodile.
Because I do know a fact about the crocodiles.
Okay, yeah.
Crocodiles cannot run fast in a straight line. So if you're ever crocodiles can only run fast in a straight line. So if you're ever being chased by a crocodile, you should run zigzag.
Okay.
So you've got like this massive...
Oh yeah, this one is actually from that zoo.
From the Dakar Zoo?
Yeah.
Wow.
That was one of my going away gifts they gave me.
So you knew this crocodile when it was alive, or this skull was there?
No, it was already there.
And then, this is just the two skulls you have on your back porch. How many skulls do you think you have in your house?
I probably have at least probably 20 all over the house.
So now I don't feel so bad about my soccer jersey collection.
No, you shouldn't.
Because, and you got two giraffe skulls?
Giraffe skulls. I got grizzly bear, African lion, hyena, leopard.
You'll have to show me the lion. I didn't see that one.
And that one that you just showed, that is somebody's potbelly pig.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it looks like it could be a fiercer animal, like...
Right, that's somebody's household pig. Pigs are terrifying, man. I'd be scared of pigs, man.
You got a thing with pigs.
Oh yeah, I draw pigs. There's one right here. You can't see the whole thing, but... Oh, look at that. Yeah, I draw them all over, and I don't know, it's a weird thing, but that's been my biggest seller lately at the art show is a bunch of those drawings.
It's a pro-pork nation.
Wink.
So how did you get into collecting skulls? Where does that come from?
I don't exactly know for sure, but I think what it was I was in northern Minnesota. I was like in the woods with my buddy. I was like fucking 6 or something, just playing around by the water edge, and someone had poached, I think it was like an otter. Like, you can't kill an otter. And anyway, they just skinned it and left its body just on the ground, and like I was just walking, and it was like it had to be like less than a day old. Like it would just, the meat It was just like an animal with no skin on it. It was insane. And it just really hit me. And it's like, I swear, it's like this, how, you know, serial killers start. They're like, oh, that's kind of cool.
That's funny because I find that story disturbing. Just imagining it.
Yeah, it was.
I was picturing some cow I saw dead.
Yeah,
in Oregon when you said that, and like, I guess the insects had eaten, and maybe some smaller animals had eaten like the side off of it, so you could see its ribs and stuff. There was flies all over it, and it was really, really disturbing.
And this thing had like, it must have been.
So you triggered that memory in me.
Yeah, it was weird because this haunted me for a long time as a kid, but I always thought it looked really cool, like
the skeletal work,
the bones and just the teeth were so white and shit, and I'm just like, oh, that's really interesting. And then I just like started seeing skulls, and now I have an eye for it. So when I'm like hiking, I find skulls all the time where people are like, how'd you see that? I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know how to look for them. And then, you know, it's like the start of a serial killer, but I didn't follow through yet. There's working on it.
There's still time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, you got a thing for animals, and I need to ask you about your cats.
Oh yeah.
You've got this beautiful black cat. It looks like a little panther. It's gorgeous, but it only has 3 legs. How did it lose its leg?
Well, when we got it, we were like, this is a great cat, but I really want a disabled cat, so I just chopped his fucking leg off. No, I'm just kidding.
You have a really twisted sense of humor.
I really do. I'm very dark.
Like when we're looking at the bison, you're all right, I'm gonna get out and fuck one of them. You just feel like
I said it so deadpan, dude. Like, wait, what? What did you say?
Can't we just enjoy the sunset?
He had an infection in his leg, and they tried to treat it with antibiotics, and it just didn't take. And they had to. This is all before we got him. We got him at the shelter.
Okay.
So he's like a rescue animal.
And then your other cat has got just got attacked and got his ass chewed off by another cat, right?
Yeah, he is.
So what's that story?
Well, having outdoor cats, you know, they don't recommend it. They say their life expectancy goes down a lot when you do it. And I love these cats more than anything, almost more than my own children. But I still rather think that if they get joy going outside, then I'd rather have them a short, joyous life than a long life of sitting in the window going, fuck, I want to be outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, because how torturous would that be if that's all you wanted and you can't do it?
Yeah, and you're seeing like little mice and butterflies and all kinds of things would be fun to chase as a cat.
And other cats going by, they're like, God, I want that dude to chew my ass so bad.
So how did the cat's ass get? Because it's a serious injury.
It's bad. I don't know.
I mean, like the cat's ass is like an open wound.
Yeah. I came home from on the road and he just had it. The guy that watches him was like, yeah, that just happened last night. I don't know.
Okay, well, you're having better luck with your children, right? How old are your kids?
You should see the open wounds on these guys. No, my son is 15 and my daughter is 13. She is starting school tomorrow. Oh, shit.
Yeah, you were registering them online.
Yeah, you heard me cursing a lot. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's an experience I've never had. I don't have any kids, so like signing them up for the new school year.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Pretty big moment.
Yeah, and I guess the reason I was stressed is because I probably should have done it like 3 weeks ago. You know.
You think you'll homeschool them like your mom did and make them go find...
Hell no. Nope.
What's your favorite thing about being a father?
It's just watching these people. I mean, I always loved babies. Like, honestly, that was my jam. I loved, like, I'm just good with babies. I don't know, it sounds weird, but that's my jam. And then they get older and you're like, fuck, I gotta parent other ways now. You know, it's just watching them grow and like, when they do something that's right, and you're like, oh, you just did that because I taught you how to do that, and then you actually, implicate it into real life, and you're like, oh, you can be taught.
I really admire you, man. You've done so many things I haven't. You own property. You've reproduced.
Well,
I'm really proud to know you, man.
There's still time. There's still time, man. You can still have a
You
baby.
can still be a mass murderer.
Yeah, you
and
could.
I can still have kids.
You can have kids. You can own some land.
Yeah.
You can do it.
No, but it's inspiring, you know?
Yeah, and it's weird just because, like, people say it's inspiring, and, like,
Just, as a comedian, because being a comedian is such a difficult life and so much uncertainty, you know?
Right.
And just to have the financial stability to do all of those things is, it's great to see that it can be done.
But it's also cool to be like, not saying I could pay my bills now with artwork, but it's cool to supplement my income with something else that I love, and then I can step away from doing comedy as much and do other things that I like to do, and that's really cool. And I've always wanted.
And making money selling your art.
How cool is that?
How fucking cool is that?
And then the other big thing is like, I've always just loved stand-up. Like, I'm a purist to the craft. Like, I think stand-up is the person and a microphone, and that's it. You're just telling jokes, and I don't ever want to stop doing that. Like, I can see myself doing that into my 70s, and but I've also been doing 200 shows a year for 20 years, and it's a grind, man. It's hard on the body, hard on the soul.
Yeah, and as you get older, like, just being on the road so relentlessly, all the flights.
Sitting in a plane and just fucking bored,
So you're a pretty well-known marijuana smoker, and another achievement is you've got your own marijuana lollipops that are sold in the weed stores.
Yeah.
So
dude.
How does that conflict with what are your honest conversations with your children about marijuana? And I'm asking as a guy who just stopped smoking weed 2 months ago.
Well, I feel like it was a thing before they were old enough to understand the concept of what that was.
Would they know you were high when they were younger, you think?
I don't think so. I think they'd be like, well, Daddy went to the garage and now he smells funny.
And he's all happy. He just came back really happy.
He's a lot more fun to hang around with.
Now he wants to play with my toys and everything.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's it. It's like, so many other people are on pharmaceutical drugs, and this is the one that works for me, and it is really a life-altering substance in my life. Like, before Senegal and all that, like, I was like super worried about everything and like anal retentive, and I smoked some weed and I was like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Who cares about this shit? Like, it is what it is. Let's do this, and as far as the kids go, now they know what's up. It's a legal substance here.
Yeah, everything. Mushrooms are legal in Colorado, everything.
It's hard to not explain it to your kids when your face is on the package of the weed candy and people are like, hey, it's you.
And it's a lollipop, which kids love lollipops. I love lollipops.
My kids love them.
But there's weed dispensaries everywhere as we're driving around.
Every single corner has one.
So what about your experience on America's Got Talent? You told me that really, we were having phenomenal Thai food yesterday. And this table of Asian women from Sacramento yesterday went ape shit for you. And you said that you had a pretty big profile before, but the America's Got Talent really hit you up into an even higher stratosphere.
Yeah, it took me to a whole new level. And my first big burst on the scene was Last Comic Standing, and when I won that in 06. And then, I went to this level, and I've just been there for that long. And then you have little bumps here, little downfalls there, this and that. But then AGT was like, just another it's worldwide. I mean, that shit airs everywhere. It airs, and like, you saw me a day and a half now, and that happens everywhere I go.
And you're getting recognized everywhere.
Like not just Colorado, but every place I go, that's what it's like, which is so cool. And ticket sales have been great. And the truth of the matter is, like, I'm a good stand-up comic. Like, I think that early on there was, people saw me do stuff on TV and they're like, he's only about the palsy and that's all he talks about. But that's all the fucking TV networks would approve me to talk about.
Right.
They wouldn't give me free reign to say whatever, so then I kind of got pigeonholed into like being the palsy comic, where in fact if you watch my hour show,
you are a great comedian.
I do. I hit them hard. I don't take the foot off the gas the whole time, and yes, it does come from the perspective of a guy that has cerebral palsy, but what else am I supposed to fucking talk about?
Right.
That's what's real funny. Like, I remember early on, they're like, find your voice. And then I found my voice, and people were like, use that voice too much. I'm like, what the fuck you guys want from me? What do you want here? I'm doing it, and again, I don't know, I just feel like I'm a really good stand-up that happens to have cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And again, it's funny because tonight we both get to see each other live for the first time.
Yeah, it's really great.
Yeah.
I'm excited we're going to do these sets at the Comedy Works.
Yeah.
And I told you, one of my favorite books of all time is Jack Kerouac's On the Road.
Yeah, man.
And his hero in the book was Neil Cassidy, who lived in Denver.
Yeah.
So when he's driving across the country from New York to San Francisco or vice versa, he would always stop in Denver to visit his hero buddy. And, I'm kind of feel like I'm having that experience. I love you as a person. I respect you as a comedian. And I can't thank you enough for treating me like a king and showing me the best of everything you and Denver has to offer. In closing, is there any words of wisdom or advice that you'd like to give to the people of the earth?
Well, I'd just like to say to you too first, like, yeah, man, it's been so easy hanging out. It's cool. And I love life. And when you're open to shit like this, it lines up and it does present itself. And it's about taking the things that are offered to you and knowing when to take them and when to pass on them and when to, and that's my wisdom to the people is like, you can do anything you fucking want. Just do it. That's the key. Is like, it sounds so corny. Like, I've had people say that about my painting. Like, oh, I could paint that. I'm like, yeah, but the difference is, I already did it. It's already done. Like, you're just talking about how you could do it. And I see that so much in life where people are like, I feel like I could have been a writer. I'm like, well then fucking
or when people ask
write.
me like, how do you get into comedy? It's like, it's so easy to find out. The source material is everywhere.
Right. Be funny.
Go somewhere and try it.
Right.
Knowing you and being friends with you makes up for 100 people who are dicks in this business.
Well, thanks, man.
Seriously.
That's cool.
I love you very much.
You too, brother.
All right,
Thanks
let's go make them laugh tonight.
Let's do it, brother.
Hooray for humanity. Thanks,
There's
Josh.
still time.